and welcome to Newfoundland and Labrador Studies 2205. This is Unit 3, The Country Grows, Section 4, Lesson 7, on Women's Suffrage. I'm Miss Fleming, and I'm your instructor for this course. Let's talk about the right to vote. The first campaign for women's suffrage in Newfoundland occurred in the 1890s, organized by the Women's Christian Temperance Union, or WCTU. The WCTU was a coalition of women who sought to rescue women and children from domestic violence and the dangerous effects of alcohol. Part of their goal was to have women gain the right to vote in municipal elections. With more political power, women had more control over their lives and the effects of domestic violence. On March 18, 1891, approximately 50 women marched to the Colonial Building to provide an island-wide petition for women to gain the right to vote in municipal elections. There were two debates then in the House of Assembly, in 1892 and 1893, but the suffrage movement was defeated. Now let's talk about the second phase, the Ladies' Reading Room, from 1909 to 1914. In 1909, women were excluded from attending lectures at a male club in St. John's in response to public controversy about militant suffrage activities in England. A group of prominent women in St. John's gathered at local suffragette Armine Nutting-Gosling's home in December of 1909 and began the Ladies' Reading Room and Current Events Club. Armine is there right in the middle. Members tended to be socially prominent women who were well-read, well-traveled, and aware of suffrage activities worldwide. A woman could join the reading room if she was introduced by another member and paid a fee of $3 a year. Women in the reading room had access to British and American suffrage magazines and newspapers, and could attend the Current Events Club, which served their political interests. The next phase was distaff feminism from 1914 to 1919. Distaff feminism is considered the third phase of the suffrage movement. If you've never heard of that before, a distaff is a tool used in spinning that holds the unwoven fibers. The symbolism meaning that a woman is like a distaff. She holds society together. Generally speaking, there were two main arguments during this phase. Firstly was natural rights. Women deserve equal rights with men by the simple virtue of being human. And then there's maternal rights. Women's maternal qualities have a positive effect on the public, on their lives, and deserve public recognition. The maternal rights argument seemed to resonate with most women and men in Newfoundland. All classes of women contributed to their homes and families through traditional domestic activities. Elite women in St. John's used their maternal skills to hold fundraising events for churches and charities, while working and middle-class rural women used their skills to supplement the family's income. During the war years, the Women's Patriotic Association, also referred to as the WPA, had branches across the island and was a public extension of what women did in the home. The Women's Patriotic Association held fundraising events that provided knit goods like socks, mittens, scarves, and hats to the Newfoundland Regiment. They also made hospital and surgical supplies and visited relatives of those deployed. The final phase was the Newfoundland Women's Franchise League from 1920 to 1925. And this phase began after the First World War ended. Building on the public's appreciation for women's contribution during the war, the Women's Franchise League, or WFL, was established. The movement began with a publicity campaign in May of 1920. The WFL sent letters to local newspapers and canvassed local homes. They succeeded in gaining thousands of signatures in support, but the suffrage measure was again defeated in legislature. Prime Minister Richard Squires opposed the movement, partially because of his own political situation and scandal. Suffrage leaders sought to clean up the political arena and supported modification to prohibition, which was unpopular with Catholics. If you're unsure of what prohibition is, it was the movement to make the sale of alcohol illegal. The Women's Franchise League continued for the next 5 years under the leadership of Armine Nutting-Gosling and received financial support from the International Women's Suffrage Alliance. Success came at last in 1925 with a new government under Walter S. Monroe. The suffrage bill passed unanimously through the legislature. Women gained the right to vote and run for political office, and voted in their first general election on October 29, 1928, where 52,343 women cast a ballot, which was 90% of women of voting age. Ironically, in 1930, Lady Helena Squires, wife of Sir Richard Squires, and she became the first woman elected to political office in Newfoundland. Now it's time to review. I'm going to ask you to please complete the activities in Brightspace, and I hope you have a great day.